Hey guys, lately Ryan, who's our 67 kilo lifter, who's been with me since he was 14, has been doing incredibly well. Like here, he's squatting 227 kilos for a massive lifetime PR back squat. And so a lot of people are assuming that we're squatting a lot more often, and we're going heavy all the time, but the whole point of this video is to say that that's absolutely not the case. Matter of fact, we are doing things a lot less. And I'll show you. And hopefully you guys can learn some things for your own athletes. Also lately, he's had some massive just in his training. Here's a day where he totaled 301, which is a PR total at 67. Here's a big clean and jerk. This is his lifetime PR clean and jerk, and it's capped off his lifetime total PR. So I'll let you see that, and then I'll give you an idea of his training. Yeah, number one, he's courageous, but let's take a look at his training. So I'm going to give you a typical day. This was earlier on Monday. We did this training for him, and as you can see, we did snatch first. We did it in waves. We did 5 singles at 82%, and then we did 5 singles at 87. So 10 total singles, averaging about 85%, and I think he ended up going up to 125 kilos is what he did. We did choose to do the mid blocks, and we went as a maximum effort portion because, what I've discovered with him is that if you can find something where he can go heavy, that's not so hard on the body, it builds his confidence, and everything else just kind of follows in suit, and it has. With front squat, and you'll see when we actually look at the video of him, squatting, we worked up to a heavy single. And the goal was to not go below 0.35 meters per second, and we didn't. We stayed well above that. And so this is this is pretty much the way we've been doing it. And then you see the majority of his training was at 65%, where we're really focused on velocity, because we found, when we did a forced velocity profile, we found that his, he had a weak spot at that, right around that strength speed. Quality of strength. So it's been really cool. We did the same thing with the deadlifts. We worked up to a decently heavy deadlift, and then we actually ended up going, as you can see with the deadlift, we went up starting at 87%. We worked up, and then we stayed well above the 0.4 meters per second. Anyway, you'll see when we do it, it'll make a lot more sense. And so as you see, this is pretty much all of his training. We've not gone super heavy like everyone assumes that we do, even with the push presses. So here's a Wednesday. We'll go a little bit further. And we did the same thing. Wednesdays, we did snatch for mid blocks, and we worked up to a fairly heavy snatch, and you guys will see that one within a couple days. And we did the waves with the clean and jerks. And then once again, we did front squats. We worked up fairly heavy. However, this time, we stayed made sure we stayed even faster. So now we're looking at the 55% of his 1RMs, where he did most of his work. Let me just make sure that you guys are seeing what I'm talking about. And we focused on being even faster. He likes to do a lot of bands, and it really worked for him, as you'll see in his video on Monday. I got the whole training session pretty much for you guys. Just to conclude, on Saturday will be the only day where he truly does what you guys would consider a traditional, squat and pull day. He's doing 5x3, 85%, as you can see right here. And so, same thing with deadlift. He'll be doing 4x3, 80%, a little bit less of a concern. His deadlift is well above his back squat. Well, it was. His squat pretty much has almost caught up to it. But the point is his pull is really good. The velocities of his pull are really good. So we're still putting a velocity marker on that. The 0.4 meters per second is as low as he can go, but he'll stay well above that. And so it's just to make sure that if he's having a bad day, that we'll see that and we can stop. It's just to avoid, pushing past any type of stress that we're prepared for, because we're within a few weeks of the Nationals. A couple weeks after that, we're going to Pan Am's, both pretty big meets for him. So anyway, so that gives you a look at, we have not been going heavy very often, but we have targeted things that he needs to work on. And we've looked at those things very carefully through assessment, and it's definitely paid off for us. And we're doing a whole lot better, tracking. See the INOL, as you'll see there, that's just, that is my marker for relative intensity. We're making sure that, as you'll see it at the end, we have a chart to where we are going to look at, to make sure we stay well below any type of threshold where it might push them too far. Stress is good. You got to have stress for adaptation. Too much stress, though, is how you end up hurting somebody. So we're well ahead of the game. The goal is to peak in 2024. And he really, if he stays 67 kilos, he doesn't need to get a whole lot stronger. So we're not trying to get him hurt is a key. As you see, we're tracking total volume, total reps, average intensity. K value is a cool marker that we use to predict, to figure out what we need to average as far as intensity the next time that we're preparing a program. And if we want to increase, let's say that he totals 305 in a few weeks. If we want to get to 310, that little coefficient will help us project what we need to average as far as intensity. The key is just tracking all these things, is having a good system to track it. As you see here at the end, we track it all. Not only are we doing it daily, but we're also doing it weekly. And then over here, you'll see where we do it monthly and then yearly. And over the next quad, we will do it at a much more of a macro level. And we'll be able to, here we go. So we'll see some of the charts that we look at. Effect size. Effect size is something like, it's looking at, on any given day, it's looking how that day is compared to the previous 7. It's making sure that we don't all of a sudden jump way up in volume and get him hurt. And those lines have those thresholds for us. And it alerts me automatically. We also look at monotony and strain, which is just making sure that, monotony is making sure you don't stay at the same volume day in and day out, because there's too much evidence that would say that that's a great way to get hurt. And we're looking at weekly average intensities over a set period of time. The INOL, as you can see, they're thresholds that we've set, the blue line and the gray line, and we can go above it as long as we're only above it for a day. And as you see, we dip right below it, because you want to go above it, to push the body to elicit some adaptation, but then you want to drop it and let the body recover. So, and that's the daily volume. How we look at the velocity. And so you can have all those markers, and that's well and fine, and people say they stick to a certain intensity, but everybody knows that on any given day, an intensity can vary up or down, 15%, and so that's a 30% swing. So this makes sure that we're staying well above our thresholds. As you can see with the front squats, as you'll see in a few minutes, that the slowest that he pushed the squat was 0.44 meters per second. And so that was at a 200 kilo load, which of course that was including bands. And so, but then we dropped down, did our work sets at that 65% range, and we never got below 0.75 except once. And then the very next set, he pushed it and got it above that. So we did the same thing with deadlifts. Some of these I used it. This is, if you see, obviously, when you see the 90 kilograms, the 90s and the 95s and the 100s and even the 75, those are Hannah's. So those are not Ryan's. I use this device for both of them. Really cool though is that Flex from GymAware is going to be compatible with the software, the cloud that the GymAware uses. So really you could use these Flex units to monitor quite a few of your athletes. So something to consider. Shout out to them. But as you can see, he stayed well above the 0.75 the entire time, and we worked up to the 210 kilo load, which was still well above the 0.4 that we were targeting. So if I get Ryan stronger at the 80%, which is one of the strategies we used, let's say he doesn't have to go anywhere heavier than 80, but all of a sudden he moves at 0.5 meters per second faster than he used to, or 0.05, then that means his 1RM went up too. So just some of the ways that we used velocity and other data measurements to make smart decisions that allowed me to get him stronger without beating him up. All right, here's the actual workout. We only went up to 115 kilograms in the snatch, and my favorite part of that is how consistent it looks. He's always very consistent. His movement is the same each and every time. It's snappy. The bar path is always beautiful. And then we did max effort off the blocks on just the clean, which is something we needed to do to build a little confidence, and it did just that. As you see, we ended up hitting a big PR and going for a monstrous PR. Either way, it built confidence, taught his body that it's time to go heavy because we're only a few weeks out from nationals, and then the Pan Ams are right after that. So we decided to use a theory called post-activation potentiation, which just says that the contractile history of a muscle influences the mechanical performance of the next contractions. And it did. There's this PR, it's 170 kilograms. We decided to try it one more time, and even though it didn't work out, now we've got a 67 kilo lifter who's had some massively heavy weight in his hands and given it a shot. I believe he could have gotten it if he'd have just had the confidence. I feel like he pulls it super high. I think if he hadn't hesitated that little bit, would have been set. And so now we're working up on our front squat sets. As you remember, we're going to go up to a heavy single as long as we stay above that 0.35 marker. And as you'll see, we stayed well above it, 0.44. And so then we go, this is the down sets, and we just focused on speed, and he was well above the 0.75 meters per second. So I feel like we have now definitely improved his ability to produce speed at that speed, strength, quality, and strength. And it's really helped. The 500-pound squat at 67 kilos shows. His leg strength is higher than it's ever been, and you're seeing a typical day for his squatting. Not very taxing. We do focus on compensatory acceleration, which is something that a lot of you should be focusing on, which is really hard to measure unless you have some kind of velocity machine, velocity tool like we do with Flex or the GymAware. So we went up to 210 kilos. We stopped at that 0.47 meters per second, and then we did the pulls the same way. We stayed well above that threshold at 0.75, even 0.85 there. Now here is a really cool feature. I'm not trying to sell you guys on Flex, but I do love the fact that you can look at bar path and velocity at the same exact time. And it's on the GymAware and on the Flex. So